the new immigration law, which the government hopes will stop the boats. The message is simple: if you come here illegally, you will not be able to stay. But will it work?
Making the system harsher won't stop people from coming here.
Also tonight, Harry says the King has sent him an email about the coronation, but he won't say whether he's coming. Strikes and services you can't rely on, and now a big hike in the cost of rail travel. And
anybody that says words hurt has never been punched in the face.
Chris Rock is back on stage with plenty of jokes about that slap.
This is ITV News with Geraint, Vincent.
Good evening. The government has been promising for some time that it will stop people trying to get to the UK by crossing the Channel in small boats. Well, today it's been outlining how it's going to tackle the problem. The Prime Minister said the Home Office would be required to remove from the country, as soon as reasonably practicable, anyone who arrives on a small boat. Any asylum claims they make would be inadmissible. Human rights campaigners have criticised the plans, saying they are immoral and will not work. Here's our political correspondent, Carl Dinner.
You've got to be desperate to try it. But new laws are expected in Parliament this week, banning anyone arriving illegally from settling here, even if they would otherwise be judged in need of asylum, and reportedly placing a duty on the Home Secretary to remove them to a safe third country. Ministers say there will also be other measures.
It is part of a whole range of things that we are trying to do to stop the small boats, stop illegal migration, interrupt people trafficking on what is now an industrial scale. And so, yeah, it's part of a whole package, but we do need to get the law right.
Is it humane to tell people that if they've arrived here illegally, many of them won't have any clue what the law is, that they can never stay here?
Yeah, I think it is, actually. I think it's completely fair and legitimate.
No one disputes the dangers of this crossing or the tragedy of those attempts that fail. But charities supporting asylum seekers say there aren't enough safe routes for people to get here, and making the law tougher won't stop them.
The Home Office's own research shows that people coming to claim asylum don't know about our asylum system before they come here. We know this from the 30,000 refugee and asylum seekers we work with every single year. They just don't know the system. So making the system harsher won't stop people from coming here.
The Prime Minister is expected to meet President Macron in Paris on Friday to discuss further measures for preventing small boat crossings. Labour say there's already more that can be done.
What we need is action to crack down on the criminal gangs who are smuggling people across the Channel. And we need action to deal with the huge backlog in asylum claims that these criminal gangs are exploiting.
45,000 people arrived this way last year. Nearly 3,000 have risked it this year already. And the Prime Minister has staked his reputation on stopping them.
Yeah, well, whatever the rights and wrongs of the plan, as far as the PM's concerned, Carl, the plan has to work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it matters to Rishi Sunak because it's one of the 5 key priorities that he's outlined that he says that we can all judge him by come the next election. And he has said very simply, I will stop the boats. So it's going to be difficult because it's not as if this isn't something that previous governments have been leaving alone. They've tried to stop them too, and it hasn't worked. Although today the government threw a bit of shade on the previous governments. A source saying successive governments have talked a good game on curbing illegal migration, but ultimately pulled their punches. We are going to be taking decisions no other government has been willing to take. So I think part of that is going to be some of this tougher legislation that we've been hearing about today. Now, there has been talk about that being similar to legislations already on the books, but I think what the government really wants to do is tighten it up so it's less likely to be challenged in the courts. But I think also what will be very important is whatever comes out of those talks with President Macron at the end of the week, because enforcement will also be part of this.
OK, Carl, many thanks. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex say King Charles has contacted them about his coronation in May. A spokesperson for the couple confirmed the news to the Times newspaper. It comes just days after the King asked them to vacate their UK home in Windsor. Well, Martha Fairley is at Westminster Abbey, where the coronation will take place. Any sign as to whether we are likely to see the couple there among the guests, Martha?
Well, there will be around 2,000 guests inside Westminster Abbey for the coronation on Saturday, the 6th of May. But there has been particular speculation about whether the Duke and Duchess of Sussex will be among them. Today's statement, made on behalf of the couple and reported by the Times, doesn't give us any further clues, nor does it disclose whether they have made a decision about whether they will be attending or not. But it does at least confirm that they have received email correspondence about the coronation. It's only 2 months, of course, since the publication of Harry's memoir, Spare, and a series of television interviews in which he revealed incredibly personal details, not just about himself, but also about other members of the royal family, including Charles and Camilla, and criticised them publicly. Then he gave us some indication of the circumstances under which he might consider attending his father's coronation. In an interview with Tom Bradby on ITV in January, he said a lot can happen between now and then. The door is always open. The ball is in their court. There is a lot to be discussed. I really hope they are willing to sit down and talk about it. If Harry and Meghan do attend, it'll be the first time we've seen them in the UK since they were here for the funeral of his grandmother, the Queen, in September.
OK, Martha, at Westminster Abbey, thank you. Ambulance strikes scheduled for tomorrow and Wednesday in England have been called off after the Unite union agreed to join talks over pay. It follows the decision by Unison and the GMB last Friday to cancel their plans for industrial action after what they described as a huge shift in the government's position. Unite, which has 3,000 members, says that they'd be prepared to resume strikes if their demands weren't met. Junior doctors are still expected to walk out later this month. The government's top civil servant described Boris Johnson as a nationally distrusted figure, according to the latest leaks of Matt Hancock's WhatsApp messages. Cabinet Secretary Simon Case appeared to be worried that people wouldn't isolate during the pandemic if they were told to do so by the former Prime Minister. And the UN has reached an historic conservation agreement for much of the world's oceans. After 10 years of negotiations, the UN High Seas Treaty will formally protect 30% of international waters by 2030. Now, despite record levels of poor reliability and strikes which make rail travel impossible, train fares have gone up today, and by quite a lot. Ticket prices in England and Wales will rise by nearly 6% on average. That's the biggest rise in more than 10 years. The government says the increase is well below inflation and delayed. Here's Ian Wood.
It's the biggest price hike for a decade, but it could have been worse. For many years, the cost of a rail ticket mirrored the annual rate of inflation. That's currently in double figures, so a 5.9% increase might not seem so harsh. But it comes after a prolonged period of strike action, which has seen 1 in 25 journeys cancelled. And even when services are running, getting a train doesn't guarantee getting a seat. The watchdog, which lobbies on behalf of passengers, says the increase is hard to justify.
The thousands of passengers we're talking to, at least half of them are saying they don't feel like it's good value for money, what they're paying, because there's so much disruption going on at the moment that, of course, what you pay for isn't necessarily what you get. It's hard to feel a sense of value for money.
The increase means travelling between Gloucester and Birmingham could now cost close to £5,000 per year. Meanwhile, Woking to London could set you back almost £4,000, and a flexi season ticket travelling 2 days a week between Liverpool and Manchester could increase by more than £100. The Rail Delivery Group, which represents the train company, said that a below-inflation increase was understandable, but said that fares need to be set at a level appropriate to the industry and its customers. Of course, a higher increase would make it harder for both the management and the government to argue that the rail unions should lower their pay demands. But commuters are understandably frustrated.
The price rise is excessive given the service that we're getting, which hasn't been ideal.
Our salary is not going up by the same amount.
It's discouraging people from using our public transport.
Nothing's like improving with that 6%. I know it's all mathsy with like inflation, but I'm not seeing anything for it, and it happens every year and it gets me every time.
The Scottish Government has yet to announce a price increase north of the border, while fares in Northern Ireland are going up by 7%. Ian Woods, ITV News.
To sport now, and the defending world champion Max Verstappen has made a great start to the new Formula One season. The Dutchman easily won the opening race in Bahrain, coming home nearly 12 seconds ahead of his Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez. Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin finished in third, with Lewis Hamilton, the best-placed British driver, in fifth place. The fight against relegation from the Premier League is proving as tight as the title race. Everton's long stay in the top flight is under threat. They went to Nottingham Forest today for a survival scrap, but remain in trouble after a 2-2 draw. Chris Scudder was watching.
Only Arsenal have been in England's top division longer than Everton, but after 69 seasons, that marathon stay is in danger of ending. They could not afford to lose this.
Shelby makes the challenge. He's pointed to the spot.
So an early penalty was more than welcome, dispatched with ease by Damari Gray.
Excellent use of that opportunity.
Forest are not out of the woods either at the bottom, but they're proving hard to budge at home. Everton's answer to that goal was to go aerial. 1, 2, 3 headers, and Doucouré's final touch gave them a precious 2-1 lead.
And Abdoulaye Doucouré was restored.
With so much at stake in the battle for survival, it was full-blooded and fiery. A flurry of yellow cards littered the match.
It is simmering. Really is simmering.
And the final word went to Forest. An equalising goal started and finished by Brennan Johnson.
It's Brennan Johnson!
2 goals for him and 1 more precious point, while Everton remained stuck in the relegation places. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
And in the day's other game, Liverpool are taking on Manchester United at Anfield, where the hosts are in full control. Striker Cody Gakpo, who's a January target for Manchester United before his move to Liverpool, set the ball rolling with this first-half strike. Liverpool went on to add a further 5 goals. Gakpo got a second, but the pick of the bunch came in the 65th minute when Mo Salah volleyed home the hosts' lead by 6 goals to 0. Arsenal's women are celebrating victory in the Continental League Cup final. They came from a goal down to beat Chelsea 3-1 in the final at Selhurst Park, with all the goals coming in the first half. It is Arsenal's first trophy for 4 years. And finally, when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock around the face at last year's ceremony, it became one of those unforgettable Oscar moments. The actor has had his say several times, apologising for what happened. But as for Chris Rock, well, he's been somewhat more quiet. That was until last night on a live stand-up show for Netflix. A year on, he joked, "It still hurts," as Sam Holder reports.
Stage fright must have a new meaning for Chris Rock. But this was his own show, on his own terms. The first live-streamed event on Netflix, and where he'd break his silence on one of the most talked-about events in Oscars history.
I'm gonna try to do a show tonight without offending nobody, okay? I'm gonna try my best. You know why? Because you never know who might get triggered.
That, of course, referring to this moment of infamy.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Will Smith hitting the comedian for making a joke about his wife. Smith, who was handed a 10-year Oscars ban, has talked about the incident time and time again, even on the night itself.
I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees.
But now Chris Rock has answered the questions everyone was wondering. Yes, it was real, and yes, it was painful.
You gotta watch out. You know what people say? They always say, words hurt. That's what they say. You gotta watch what you say, because words hurt. You know, anybody that says words hurt has never been punched in the face.
The timing of Rock's new show will sting for the Academy, with the slap back in the spotlight just a week before this year's ceremony. Sam Holder, ITV News.
And that's it. I'm back at 10. Until then, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.
Visibility may be low this evening as the cold weather hits. Heinz Soups sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello again. Hope you've all had a lovely Sunday so far. Well, brace yourselves for some pretty cold weather as we go through the next few days. There is the risk of some sleet and snow in places, especially across more northern parts, and there will of course be some frost in places too. So we start off tonight with a weather warning force across parts of Scotland and North East England, the risk of some snowfall here and of course some icy stretches, so do take care if you are heading out and about. Elsewhere, 1 or 2 showers across the south, but these generally falling as rain throughout tonight, and where we get the clear skies, cold enough for a touch of frost. So it will be a chilly start to the day on Monday morning, frost and ice across the north, and further showers here again, which could be wintry across more northern parts. Further south though, showers tending to fall as rain, and there will be some sunny spells in between, and quite a contrast in temperature. So highs across the south of 10 degrees, cold in the north, highs in Aberdeen of 2 degrees. You factor in the wind chill, well, some areas feeling like -5. Bye-bye.
Heinz Soups sponsors ITV National Weather.